Verse 12, it says, that Zechariah saw him and he was startled and gripped with fear. But here he is. And the angel begins to speak to him. It says this here: "Do not be afraid, Zechariah. Your prayer has been heard." I love that moment here. Here's a man who's been praying. I mean, he's 60-something years of age. He's been praying. He's been pleading with the Lord. He's wanted to have a child. He wanted to be one who carried on the ways of the Lord. And, the angel says, your prayer has been heard. Your wife, Elizabeth, will bear a son, and you are to call him John. And he will be a joy and a delight to you. And many will rejoice because of his birth. Wow, this is going to be a day of joy and celebration. It's a good thing. There's something happening here. He's saying, Zechariah, I want you to realize as he's getting up off the floor that there's something about to happen. There's something about to unfold. There's a joy. There's a shaking that's about to happen. There's a stirring. God's up to something very special, and I want you to know about it. For he will be great in the sight of the Lord. He is never to take wine or other fermented drink. And he will be filled with the Holy Spirit even before he is born. Some think that maybe he, like Samson, was to be a Nazirite. But either whether he's that or not, the idea is he is special, going to be consecrated unto the Lord. This is going to be a unique child that's up to something very special. Verse 16, he will bring back many of the people of Israel to their God. And he will go before the Lord in the spirit and power of Elijah to turn the hearts of the parents to their children and the disobedient to the wisdom of the righteous, to make ready a people prepared for the Lord. It's easy as you listen to what this angel is telling Zechariah, it's easy to get caught up in the John part of it. Wow, you're going to have a son. Wow, he's going to be special. He's going to be anointed of God. He's going to have this power and the strength, and he's going to do these great things. But underneath that, you've got to hear what the angel is really saying. He's saying, I'm about to do something special in Israel. I'm about to bring worldwide salvation. That's what the Lord is saying. I'm about to shake everything up. I'm about to turn everything on its head. Glory is going to be shown. Deliverance is going to come forth. Strength is going to be manifest. There's going to be a dynamic that's going to shake everything down, and it's going to happen in part through your son. Zechariah, you're right in the middle of something very significant. And he's getting up off the floor saying, oh, what is this? Well, this is not what I expected. This is not just another Friday night down at the temple here. It's not just another service. This is not just another moment. This is not just something about me personally or my own fear or trouble. Suddenly God's speaking to me about something bigger than myself. Suddenly God is calling me to a destiny that will shake the world. And he begins to hear this. And of course, his boy is going to be right in the middle of that, his son, John. What's he going to do with an opportunity of a lifetime? What's he going to do with revival waiting to erupt? What's he going to do? I mean, like I said, we've already talked about him being a good guy. We've talked about him being faithful. We've talked about him knowing how things operate. What's he going to do? Would you like to know what he does with his opportunity? Would you like to hear it tonight? What's this man of God, this righteous, faithful man, what's he going to do with it? Verse 18 says this. Zechariah asked the angel, how can I be sure of this? What an idiotic statement. I mean, he's in the inner court there of the temple. He's right next to the glory. He's been in the altar of incense. God picked him to go in and do that, to take that spot. He looks up and hears an angel full of glory and power that prophesies to him and tells him the unfolding of the ages, and he looks up and goes, oh, I just don't know about that. I don't know. I'm just not sure, you know. Here it is, the offer. Here's this breakthrough. Here's this glory, and there's a hesitation in him. There's a bit of a pause. There's a bit of an uncertainty. I don't know. I don't know. You know, I've heard all these things. I've prayed for this for years. You know, you've promised all these glorious things, God, but now that it requires something from me, now that I'm going to have to get out of my comfort zone, now that I'm going to be challenged like I've never been challenged before, I just don't know what to think about that. You know, I've kind of gotten used to things being the way they are. I've kind of grown to like my infertility. I've kind of grown to be comfortable in the way I minister. And I've kind of grown to sort of understand the Romans are oppressing us. You know, I don't like it, but I kind of can live with that now. And I've kind of learned to be comfortable with the fact that there is no Messiah yet. And I've learned to just sort of go through the motions. I've learned to live with what I have. And God says, no, 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 no. Here's something big. Here's something dynamic. Here's something that could change the whole world. But what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with this opportunity? Here it is. It's right in front of you. And what does he do? What does Zechariah do? He does the same thing that some of you do. He does the same thing some of you are doing today, tonight. The opportunity comes. Revival blazes. The truth of God is going forth, and you sit there and go, I don't know. I'm just not sure. God's stirring. It's time for healing. It's time for breakthrough. And people are like, well, I just don't know. Maybe you need to convince me a little bit more. Maybe I need another sad story to get me moving. God starts stirring. God starts offering the opportunity of a lifetime. God starts putting you in a position to be a vehicle of salvation, not just to America, but to the nations of this world. And you're sitting there saying, I just don't know. Give me a minute to think about it. Maybe I'll respond a little later. Maybe when it's a little more convenient for me. Maybe I'll respond when my marriage is not hurting, or maybe I get a little bit better paycheck at my job, or maybe, when I feel God come on me in a more dynamic way, maybe then I'll respond. I know the angel just showed up. I know we're all on our faces in the room. I know the glory cloud's coming down on us, but maybe I'll still wait. Maybe something better will happen. I know lightning's already struck twice in this body, but maybe it'll strike a third time. Well, you know what? I'll just pass up on prayer tonight. We'll just pray tomorrow night. Always got another day, another time. The devil doesn't care what you believe as long as it's one of these days. That's why popular end time views are so good, so popular. The devil loves it. He didn't care what you believe as long as you put it off another day. That's what we do. Righteous people, good people, better than most. People that have learned and people that have heard, people that have received, people that know the ways of God, people that are faithful servants, people that pray, people that sing, people that push in many ways. But God comes down. God puts a demand on us. God puts an offer in front of us and says, now what are you going to do tonight? How are you going to respond? And we say, I don't know. And maybe I'll just delay a bit. Lord, help me understand this. I'm 60 years of age after all, God. God, my whole life's been a wreck. I've made a lot of mistakes. How could you use me? I got to figure this out before I'm ready to respond to you. I've got to understand this all, and it's got to feel just right, and it's got to work just the way I need it to work, and I've just got to understand it and comprehend it. And when I have all that, then I'll be ready to respond. When I feel like I'm good enough, when I feel like I'm spiritual enough, Then I'll respond. I don't know if you realize this tonight, World Revival. The opportunity of a lifetime sitting in our lap. Things that could change the world as we know it. Things that could change Christianity. It's here. I'm not saying it's going to be offered to us. I'm saying it's here right now. As you're looking up off the floor, there's the word of the Lord coming out. Here God's coming down. And let's be honest, who does God like to use? He likes to use the people that are ready. He likes to use the people that have been prepared. He likes to use the people that have had the training. He likes the people that are ready to do something significant. But the only caveat is they have to be ready to respond. They have to be ready to do. But we have a problem in this story. He says, how can I be sure of this, God? How can I know what you're saying is really true? Tonight you're probably saying, JD, how can I know what you're saying is true? How can I really be convinced that this is who we can be and where we can go? Do you really need that tonight? Is this really that hard to figure out? Are these words that difficult? I don't believe they are. How can I be sure of this? Because I'm an old man. And my wife is well along in years. I guess he is kind of wise there. He says, I'm old, but she's just kind of well along in years. That's a man that's been married a long time right there. Smart man. But here it is. The excuses come out. I can't do it. I can't be it. Just the hesitation, the delay. What is it that we miss when we miss our now moment? What is it that we miss when we don't learn to respond instantly to the things of God? What is it that begins to happen to us? Well, it's easy to look at who we are and look at our problems and our fears and our uncertainties, to look at what we don't have and say, I can't do this. But I'm telling you tonight, you can. This is yours to have if you'll take it. This is yours if you'll just make the effort. But the sad thing is this. So many people in history and other times, they've given up. They've walked away. They've hesitated. They've dragged their feet. And they miss what God is up to. They miss the deeper calling. The question is sitting in your lap. What are you going to do with the destiny and the calling that's on your life? And the problem is if you don't respond, things begin to happen. Things begin to change. People that don't learn how to respond to God in the hour of visitation, when they hold back, when they hesitate, they miss what God is doing. The angel said to Zechariah, I'm Gabriel. I stand in the presence of God. And I've been sent to speak to you and tell you this good news. That's how you're going to know, because I come from God. I'm speaking the words that God told me to speak. That's what Gabriel said. Then he says this, another tragic moment in the Bible. A man who had everything. A man who was trained in every way. A man who was in church all the time. A man who was a teacher. A man who had, in a sense, more CDs than anybody. And here he is, dragging his feet. This is what the angel says to him. And now you will be silent and not able to speak until the day this happens, because you did not believe my words. Here comes the sign. Here comes the declaration. I don't know if you realize this, but when you drag your feet, there's a price to pay. When you hesitate when God is moving, there's something that happens. Don't think that there's no cost to this, friends. Don't think that God's just going to bypass us and our opinions and our hearts and our attitudes. And don't think he's just going to give it to us because we're privileged, because we've had the training, because we've been in the right place, because we've been in the temple more than anybody else. Don't think that it will not cost us if we hesitate. Because you see, when you hesitate, when you hold back, when you refuse to enter in, God comes down and silences your mouth. I don't know if you realize this. I don't know if you understand the implications of that. I've met people here and people have talked to me. They said, JD, I just can't figure out how to pray. I can't figure out how to sing. I can't figure out how to speak. How do you get up there and preach? Or you've lost your voice. You somehow gotten silenced along the way. I wonder how that happened. You say, I don't know what to say to my wife. I don't know what to say to my kids. Somewhere along the way, your mouth's been silenced. The silence of God ends up being a judgment that comes upon us. We find ourselves unable to be and to speak and to do and to go. The question is still out there. What are you going to do with what God's given you? What are you going to do with the opportunity that lies in front of you? What are you going to do when you get up off the floor and you look up and there's the angel of the Lord? What are you going to do? What are you going to do with that? What are you going to do with the calling to be a vessel of salvation far beyond this place, to transform the nations? What are you going to do with that? Friends, I'm pleading with you tonight as I'm finishing this up. What are you going to do with this? How are you going to respond to what God has given us?